Good morning, everyone. And I want to say thank you to everyone who has been watching my stuff. I don't know who you are. I have no idea who you are, but thank you. I appreciate it. And I hope that you're enjoying what you're seeing. Today, I'm probably only going to have time to get one transferred over. And what is it? This is going to be Bible Journey, Genesis Part 6. So let's get to it. Mm-hmm. That's it. And here we are. So this one looks like there's a trigger warning because there's mention of poor sexual behavior, which will end up being a theme throughout the Bible. But let's listen and find out.
Welcome to the Weird Bible section of I'm Only Human, a podcast that is probably destined to become controversial if anyone actually listened to it. Inspired by people for people. I have different story arcs going on throughout my podcast, and this area focuses on the NIV Bible, copyright 2011. I'm taking things directly from the Bible and putting an average human perspective on history. According to the Bible, we were created in the image of this person named God. Well, there are plenty of other views on the topic too, but this one will remain focused on the Bible. I feel the repetition of human emotions and behaviors that preceded all the foolishness that has led to the culture of our modern world has been greatly overlooked. I will not be speaking in traditional religious terms, and I'm sure I'll be saying a bunch of stuff wrong too. My apologies in advance. I'm not trying to destroy religion. I believe we were all created equal. Somewhere along the line, we forgot about that. I believe there is more knowledge in the Bible than people realize. Join me on this exciting adventure. How does our modern world compare to the world in the Bible? Is God the biggest grifter of all time? I would like to state that I am not an expert. I get my knowledge by observation, evaluating, researching, and building on the things I learned from other people. I believe there is truth in science fiction, movies, and in children's stories. It's time to wake up. It's time to reprogram our thinking and change our world in a peaceful way. Recap time again. Sarai had Abram sleep with one of her slaves so that Abram would have an heir. Abram succeeded in creating a child with Hagar. Their son was named Ishmael. 13 years later, Abram and Sarai are now to be called Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and all the males in his household were circumcised. The Lord had told Sarah that she would have a son. Sarah, who was approaching 90 years old, thought that to be silly. It's time to catch up with our Bible friends and see what's going on with them and their family. Genesis 18, verse 1 to 15. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered. "Do as you say." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 seahs of the finest flour and knead it and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd and selected a choice, tender calf and gave it to a servant, who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk and the calf that had been prepared and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife Sarah?" they asked him. "There in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I'm worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year. Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did laugh." End verse. There was a reason for the visit. It turns out that the Lord and these other two men were heading down to Sodom to assess the situation there. There had been a great outcry, and the Lord wanted to check it out for himself. God wasn't sure that he should share his plan with Abraham, but I think that he did anyway. The two men started walking towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and Abraham stopped to ask the Lord. Genesis 18:22 to 27. The men turned away and went towards Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" The Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abram spoke up again. "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for the lack of 5 people?" End verse. To make a long story short, Abraham keeps asking the question until it gets down to only 5 righteous people, and the Lord has the same answer. If there were righteous people in the town, he would not destroy it. So, moving on slightly, the two men who were identified as angels of the Lord arrived at Sodom in the evening. Remember Lot? He was there to greet them. Lot insisted they spend the night at his place instead of the town square where they were planning to stay. They finally accepted Lot's offer. Lot had prepared a meal and they sat and ate together. Warning: this next part could be a trigger warning for some people. Please bear with me. It is not my story. If you don't want your kids to hear this, it might be a good place to pause until you are able to listen. I'll continue the story now that I have that taken care of. Seriously, it does get a bit gross. Genesis 19, verse 4 to 26. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them." Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you so you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of our way," they replied. "This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, sons or daughters, or anyone else in this city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and hurried to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to be married to his daughters. He said, "Hurry, get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of the dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. But Lot said to them, No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to them, Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. The Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew the cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. End verse. Whoa, hang on a moment. There was some unethical stuff going on there. First of all, the story makes it sound bad enough with the people of the whole town coming over to rape the new guys. I can't say if this is how it really happened or not. I'm picturing zombies circling the house the more I think about it. But then Lot is willing to protect these two men and toss his daughters to an angry mob? He even gave permission to do with them as the men pleased. Seriously, what kind of parenting skills are those? Shouldn't you want to protect your kids, even if they are female? It just shows how little thought women were given. It feels like we didn't matter, except to create children. These two men had more compassion than Lot did. The blindness that struck the zombies made the story more plausible. I wasn't there. I don't know how they couldn't find the door. Maybe the two men made the door disappear so it couldn't be opened. At any rate, there is still more information. I guess these virgin daughters were pledged to be married to a couple of guys that were near the house that was under attack. I wonder if they knew that Lot wanted to toss their future wives out to the angry mob. These men told Lot of the plan. And I agree it was a lot to digest in a short amount of time. The whole family was stunned, and the future sons in laws didn't even believe Lot. I don't know how far away Lot and his daughters had to travel to be safe. It almost feels like it wasn't very far at all. How far can one get away on foot? Or did they flee in some other way? Lot also had quite a bit of nerve to assert his own will on the two men, which were angels of the Lord. I'm shocked they agreed to let the family get away with going to the next nearest town, which wasn't on the list of destruction, but might have been destroyed had it not been for Lot refusing to head to the mountains. Lot's wife, turning into a pillar of salt, was not really focused on, well, I think he lost everything but his daughters that night. I could be wrong. I don't know if he would have had time to move all the possessions with him or not. Would you like to know what happens next? I think this next part, I'm just going to read how it is and we'll see what happens. Genesis 19, verse 30. Lot and his two daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. His two daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father. That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said to the younger one, Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father. So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. What are the odds? I mean, really, what are the odds? Did they only do this one time with their father? Makes it sound that way, doesn't it? This passage is disturbing, and in a way, it does confirm my thoughts that the only reason for a woman was to have children. It doesn't seem as though there is any love anywhere in any of these relationships. Weren't these daughters still virgins? At least according to Lot back at the last fiasco in Sodom, it seems wrong on so many levels. Did nobody question why these women were pregnant and yet not with a man? Was this normal behavior of those times? Like, was sleeping with a relative normal? Could that be why our lifespans have decreased so much? Too much inbreeding in those early years. The Bible is going to cut back to Abraham once again, and it looks like for a while. This is a story about Abraham and Amalek. I don't know if this is the same story of when Abram pimped out his wife or not when they went to Egypt. I'm reporting on the story, and this is what the Bible says. The last I heard of Abraham, who used to be known as Abram, was right before Sodom was destroyed. Abraham was residing near the great trees of Mamre. The previous story that sounds like this happened when Abram and Sarai went to Egypt due to famine. We know that Sarah, formerly known as Sarai, is currently 90 years old. The Egypt thing was prior, but not by much. I'm curious about whether humans of the Bible age differently than we do today. Our bodies start looking and feeling old by the time we get into our mid 40s. Sarah was still beautiful enough where men still desired her, not looking frail like the 90-year-olds of today. Enough of my babble. I want to know what happened, don't you? Genesis 20, verse 1 to 17. Now Abraham moved on from there to the region of Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Amalek, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Amalek in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Amalek had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. This is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." Early the next morning, Amalek summoned all of his officials, and when he told them all what had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Amalek called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Amalek asked Abraham, "What is your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, 'There is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, He is my brother.'" Then Amalek brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife to him. Amalek said, "My land is before you, live wherever you like." To Sarah he said, "I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated." Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Amalek, his wife, and his female slaves so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Amalek's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife Sarah. End verse. I still don't know if this was the same incident or not. I think it might have been. Or it may have been a short lived thing. I don't know for sure. There is a timeline. Remember, Sarah was to conceive a child who was to be born a year from the destruction of Sodom? This doesn't leave much time for the story to happen. In this story, it says that Amalek sent for Sarah. In Egypt, the story says the Pharaoh took Sarai into his bed. The start of this story said that Amalek sent for Sarah and took her. To me, that means he slept with her. I don't think the Lord came to Amalek immediately. The story states that the Lord came to Amalek in a dream one night to tell him the truth about Sarah. But then the Lord said that he didn't allow Amalek to touch Sarah, and the king said that he hadn't touched her. There are conflicting stories. Enough about that. What about the fact that Sarah really was a half sister of Abraham? I suppose it sort of answers yet another question about what was or was not considered to be moral. I wonder when that thinking changed and it became taboo to sleep with family members. It still baffles me that if this behavior is unacceptable, how come God didn't say anything about it? Not that I think of it as being acceptable, I'm just thinking out loud. Abraham received 1,000 shekels, some animals, and some slaves as a way of making amends to Sarah. By the way, 1,000 shekels is equivalent to $261.30 in US dollars today. On another note, this Amalek guy was married, had a wife, had slaves. These guys' jobs must have been to create children, and the women around were just vessels for this to happen. Am I crazy? Does anyone else see this too? I suppose more will be revealed as the story unfolds. In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of my own making or by my guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like me or what I want to share, but let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out, one experience at a time. I would like to thank my higher power for guiding me through this podcast. I hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like and share it. Comments also help other struggling people find it. I am also listener supported, and if you would like to contribute, please feel free to do so. There is no obligation. If you would like to share feedback, you can email me at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com. There is also a link you can click if you'd like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show.
All right, there we have it. Some interesting behavior back in the biblical days and gay zombie apocalypse. I don't know what else to say about that. I think that's about it for this morning. So I hope that you enjoyed, and feel free to click like on any of my videos if you happen to like them. Feel free to subscribe if you want to know when more things come out. I'll try not to be too obnoxious with releasing things, but I can't guarantee that. It all depends on what time I have available. Some days I have a lot of time and I can get a bunch of stuff done. Other days, can't get anything done. All right, so take care. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.